Dr. Pitel from Nemours.
I have no slides, so let me give a little bit of preface. I'm not sure how aware you are of Nemours' structure. That becomes important. Nemours is a purely pediatric institution. We're in 4 sites now. In Wilmington, Delaware, we have a hospital, Jacksonville, Pensacola, and we're opening a hospital in Orlando soon. So we currently have about 400 plus pediatricians, almost all of whom are pediatric subspecialists. So it's a kind of skewed thing. What I chose, and I wanted to, why did I get interested in this? Well, I was working with Yank on some things, and I heard this presentation, and as a pediatric, I'm a pediatric hematologist oncologist by training, and we're in that specialty pretty well trained about communication stuff. If you don't think you're not going to be, I want you all to think, I'm going to walk into a room for the next hour and a half and explain to a family that their kid has leukemia and this is what we're going to have to do or they're going to die. If you don't want to be trained about communication, you're a different creature. So we're all pretty trained on this kind of stuff. So we're sympathetic. Personally, I had an experience about 7 years ago where I had to have fairly major elective abdominal surgery. And I had then gone out and read 150 papers because I was trying to figure out what I should do. And after reading them, I came to some conclusions which were pretty unusual. And when I talked to lots of people, people said, your approach is kind of unusual, and I said, then pick a hole in it, and nobody could. So I narrowed it down to 2 surgeons I was going to talk to. And I decided I would do it like I was doing work on my house. I'd talk to them back and back and get different prices, you know? So I did it. So I went to one, and I had told my referring doctor that what I wanted and what I was not there to discuss, which was this life-altering kind of surgery. So I sit down, and the first thing I'm asked is told, so you're here for the life-altering surgery? And I said, under no possible circumstances. Why? Why did you come to this decision? So I said, I'll give you my top 10 reasons. Went through them. What do you think? Well, I've never heard anybody suggest that. And so I said, so what's wrong with my logic and my data? And I was told, well, I'm not sure, but I've never done that and I've never thought about it. And, you know, I'm here to lead you to the right conclusion. Well, in all honesty, how do you know what the right conclusion is for me? And second of all, what I said was, well, I spend much of my time trying to lead patients and families through very complex medical decision making, and why do you think I'm not going to do the same thing for me? There is no answer. At which point my phone rang, literally, and it was the other surgeon who said, I'm doing something kind of like that this afternoon, would you like to come watch? So, well, yeah, I did learn from that. I knew a lot more about it, and it's much more interesting to think about it on somebody else than you. But you can guess who my surgeon turned out to be. So after that experience, I was very sympathetic to this. If that's going to happen to me, what's happening to everybody else? Okay. Fortunately, Nemours has as one of its goals for 2015, we were supposed to be in the top 5% nationwide on certain patient satisfaction scores. So that was a logical argument. Why ought we do this? Well, Mayo did this stuff, and their scores went right up. Don't you think it's a good idea for us? And besides that, Yank Coble and Bill Maples and others that are arranged for the Arthur Vining Davis Foundation to pay for them to teach the course to us. So yeah, there's some indirect costs, but how the hell can you say no? So then I made what turned out to be a critical decision was the people that teach it, including an orthopedic surgeon, an anesthesiologist, a radiologist, an ENT surgeon, and me. And I figured if I can convince those people who are looking at me like I'm a Martian that this actually works, who's going to argue? And so there was a little bit of discussion to get them to commit to going through the course. But at the end of it, the anesthesiologist said, who started by saying, all I do is put people to sleep. What do you want me to do? Found that it was incredibly useful because he had very few minutes to explain, walk into a room, explain to the family, I'm going to put your kid to sleep, and before I go through the details of that, what questions do you have? And he could get them out of the way right away. The radiologist found that, the what else line, when somebody called them, one of the referring doctors, and said, can you tell me about the CAT scan? And she would tell them the stuff. She said, anything else I can do for you? Any other questions? And there was this deadly silence because nobody had ever asked them that. And all of a sudden, her satisfaction for the doctors she was supporting went way up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we then, after we went through this training, and we have employed physicians, so we mandate all kinds of stuff for them. Well, we mandated you're going to go through this course too. And what we found was our patient satisfaction scores are exactly the same as Dr. Berger reported. It works real well. You always find some people who, it doesn't matter what you did. They're right. They know they're right. It doesn't matter what you tell them. But we also found some people who went into the class with that attitude because it was mandated and came out of it changed people. That their satisfaction went up, their own satisfaction with their experience of being a doctor went up. And they became really good advocates for us. Then we took the show on the road. So we went out to Pensacola and we went to Delaware, and we have gatherings because we're so spread out. And we said, we're going to offer it as part of a class while we're at these gatherings. So the next thing that happened, I had these people, particularly in Delaware. We have about 225 pediatric subspecialists in a hospital who said, well, how about us? Why can't we be taught to do this? So when the next round came around, we had 5 of them come down. And now they're in the midst of teaching that whole staff and all the residents and all their fellows the same thing. So we're really starting to spread it around. What's next? We have to complete that process, and we're really talking about how do we build it into one of the cornerstones of our patient satisfaction and growth opportunities for staff. And one of the things, the burnout, I want to point out, if I decide to quit tomorrow, it takes 10 years for somebody to be trained to replace me. 4 years of med school, 3 years of residency, 3 years of fellowship. There's an awful lot of money built into that. If we can keep people satisfied in their fields, it's a huge big deal. Thank you.